Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, President John Mahama nominates Justice Paul Bafuboni as substantive Chief Justice following the removal of Justice Gertrude Tokonu. And also coming up, the New Patriotic Party flag bearer hopefuls face the party's vetting committee as the race to lead Ghana's largest opposition party into the 2028 elections intensifies. And later, the Electoral Commission officially declares the NDC's Professor Asiedu-Dartey as Member of Parliament-elect for Tamale Central. Details of all these and more coming up within the next 1 hour. Time now, though, for the latest in news summaries.
Thank you very much, Martin. In our summary tonight, the Communications Minister, Sam George, has granted a 1-week extension to the Stakeholder Committee evaluating DSTV pricing in Ghana. The committee, which began its work on September 8, 2025, will now submit its final report by September 29, 2025. According to National Communications Authority, the extra time is meant to ensure that the recommendations fully address the minister's concern. The New Patriotic Party NPP flag bearer hopeful Kennedy Ejapong says the party recognizes he is prepared to lead the nation. Speaking after his vetting in Accra on Tuesday, the politician and businessman expressed strong confidence in his performance. He added that the party's acknowledgement of his capabilities strengthens his resolve. Also, the Electoral Commission EC has declared Professor Martin Asiedu of the NDC the winner of the Tamale Central by-election. This followed his emergence as the sole candidate in the contest. The returning officer Muniru Musa said the declaration was made in line with constitutional instrument CI 127, which permits the EC to elect an unopposed candidate. And finally, an Accra High Court has struck out a human rights case filed by 11 West African nationals against the government. The court discovered that the applicants who had challenged their detention had already been deported to their home countries. Records show the group made up of Nigerians, Togolese, Malians, a Gambian and a Liberian had also filed injunction and habeas corpus applications before their removal. We have all of this on our website, 3news.com. Martin, over to you.
Right, thank you very much for those news summaries. And we are going straight to the details of our stories now. And President John Mahama has nominated His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni as the next Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. A statement issued by the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwakye Ofosu, indicated that President Mahama, acting under Article 1441 of the 1992 Constitution, has forwarded Justice Bafuboni's name to the Council of State for consideration. Justice Bafuboni has had a long and distinguished judicial career, having served as the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and currently the Supreme Court. Since April 22, 2025, he has been serving as acting Chief Justice following the suspension of Justice Gertrude Tokonu. The statement highlighted his contribution to Ghanaian jurisprudence and commended his intelligence, impartiality, and dedication to justice, qualities that have earned him the respect of the bench, the bar, and the wider legal community. The Council of State is expected to deliberate on the nomination before advising Parliament, which will take the final decision on the appointment. So what does all of this mean, in the current days of these uncertainties, or at least the legal tussle between the former Chief Justice and Ghana's entire judicial system? Let's speak to Martin Asiedu-Dartey, who is a private legal practitioner. He's joined us on phone. Mr. Asiedu, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Name. Evening.
Yes. How significant is Justice Bafuboni's nomination for the to be the Chief Justice of the Republic? He's been in acting position for some time, but now it looks as though he will be the substantive.
Yeah, it's extremely significant, considering the fact that among others, and I stress among others, Bafuboni is the President Kufuor appointee. Bafuboni came to the Supreme Court on the appointment, or through the appointment of President J. Kufuor, right? So by implication, we want to speak bluntly. It means that generally he is sent to subscribe to the ideologies and the philosophy of the MPP. Generally, we are using what we know, you see, in terms of objective analysis. We know that to make it to the Supreme Court, usually the presidents don't tend to appoint independent-minded people as such. No, they like to appoint those who subscribe to their ideologies so that it makes it easier, you see. So considering that Martin is a Kufuor appointee, you would think that that's where he tilts. So for President Mahama to appoint him means that, yes, now we are beginning to look beyond philosophies and ideologies of a political party to the nation. Yes, because few people would want to make such an appointment. Because Supreme Court judge, usually everybody wants to appoint one who really understands and, adhere to their philosophies. And, President Trump did it in the U.S. Remember, as candidate Trump, he promised the people, if you vote for me, I will appoint conservative judges who will come and overturn the abortion case. That's Roe versus Wade. And lo and behold, when they voted for him the first time, he came in, then he got, judges who are against abortion, okay? That they are pro-life,
right?
Not pro-choice. And it happened. There are many other examples. So this is a hugely significant appointment from the President Mahama, looking beyond party political lines, but rather thinking about the interests of the nation. And also the fact that Bafuboni is a most senior on the Supreme Court bench. So that also would satisfy a lot of people in the legal community, and I'm sure other objective bystanders, because they'll be like, okay.
Counsel, many would have thought that, that's an interesting perspective you bring to the conversation about the appointment and nomination of a Chief Justice, bringing in the political aspect of it, where it's a particular party that appointed the person. However, it is his experience that can help him cut across, irrespective of who is in government. But should that be a key consideration as to who appointed the person to the Supreme Court first? Do you think it's something that we should actually be talking about, or we actually should even, because we want the judiciary to be totally independent from the executive, we normally shouldn't be looking at the political appointments or who appointed who into the Supreme Court?
Yes, who appointed who is important because, like we said, to get even on that bench, Supreme Court bench, remember, at a point they were 18. Historically, we said that the convention is 15. That's 14 justices plus a chief justice. Right. What I'm saying is that the vacancies are very few, very limited. So to get there, it takes extra connection, like we say.
Yeah.
You see, as I said, we should speak plainly. Otherwise, we will just be playing ostrich. It's not an exam you write to get to the Supreme Court. So it tells you that these appointments are done based on negotiations, horse trading, and deliberations behind the scenes.
Right.
That you may not even get a book that will say everything. Yes, you get snippets once in a while from some of the past justices, but you don't get a full picture.
Right.
So it's important that we check objectively and also from the practice what has been made. Yes, we all want Ghana to develop, okay, and have an independent judiciary. That's what we said. So we want in the new constitution the powers of the president and Article 144 to appoint Supreme Court justices should be taken away and given to the Judicial Council. And that Judicial Council under Article 153 and 154 should be reformed in such a way that out of the 17, 18 members, the president should no longer have many appointees.
Okay.
So directly or indirectly, the president controls at least 8 of the appointees on the Judicial Council. Out of, on paper, it's supposed to be 18, but now that we don't have regional tribunals. I don't know what they do with that particular seat. Like, you see, when you read Article 153, it tells you the Chief Justice is chairman of the Judicial Council. There shall be one Supreme Court judge nominated by the rest of the Supreme Court judges, a Court of Appeal judge nominated by a Court of Appeal judges, a High Court judge nominated by High Court judges. The President appoints 4. Ghana Bar Association has 2. Police Service 1. The Armed Forces 1. So when you add, on paper it's supposed to be 18. But one of the courts no longer operates. It's called the Regional Tribunal. So practically, I don't know what they do, whether they still fill in or they don't fill in. So I'm saying 17 or 18 members. Now I'm saying that out of that, the President directly appoints 4. Then the Police Council representatives, the Ghana Police Service representatives, practically the President has his ears. Right? The Armed Forces 1. The President is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So when a representative is coming from the Armed Forces, how independent can he be? And then the Chief Justice is a close pal to the President. That's how it's done. They don't give very independent people. No, they like to give people, they know they can profile you, they know this is how you think, they are comfortable with it. That's what I'm saying, a close pal to the President, etc. So in the new constitution, we want the President's power in the Judicial Council to be diminished. And in the same way, the President should not be appointing Supreme Court judges, so that we'll have a more independent judiciary.
Two final questions before you take leave of us. What judicial experience, or what experience from Justice Bafo-Boni's career do you think best prepares him for the role as Chief Justice?
So number one, what kind of experience? Number one, his longevity on the bench. So he came from the High Court. He sat somewhere in Gosu or Sunyai, then other places, then came to Accra, then came to the Court of Appeal, and then the Supreme Court. He's been on it since 2008. So these ones, and of course the meetings he attends as representing the judiciary, etc., have all prepared him. All of them come together. Every bit of experience from the High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and from the GRA, previously IRS. Yes, he was a lawyer at the GRA. Those days it was called the IRS. All of this count because, let's say, when tax cases come in, yes, with his background in tax lobbying, a GRA lawyer, you know, it counts. When cases from the interlands, because he was not just a judge in Accra, but also in the region, he has that perspective. Right? I remember one day he told me, he called me, long story short, he said, hey, where do you come from? Then when I mentioned, he said, look, me, I could come all the way from Ho, pass through Oti, etc. So telling you that he's been through Volta and Oti, you know, into getting to the borders with northern region. So he knows what goes, I mean, generally, he has a perspective of the interlands around that side. So if you hear Bafo-Boni and think, oh, no, it's just Akan or Todd, Western region. No. So this is a man who has traveled Ghana. Koforidua, he lived in Koforidua, practiced in Koforidua before going to the bench, etc. So for me, I believe all of those experiences count. Yes.
And finally, we know that the removal of Justice Gertrude Tokono has been a very topical and debatable issue. What, on top of your head, would you say are the first few challenges that Justice Bafo-Boni would need to tackle, as he's under strong consideration to be Chief Justice?
Look, we all know that, with the removal of Justice Tokono, yes, it's caused a lot of disquiet, especially among those affiliated to the MPP. So Justice Tokono would, Justice Bafo-Boni would have to, look at things that can be done that can, help increase the trust in the judiciary. It just didn't start with the removal of Justice Tokono. I mean, at the time Justice Tokono was being removed, the trust in the judiciary had already waned from the days of the Anas expose, etc. And Chief Justice Okufu did a lot to try to bring up the trust and confidence. Justice Sokonu herself did some, but we are not yet there. There's still a lot of trust from the justice system. So it means that Justice Bafuboni knows that he has to do a lot to restore the confidence of the people in the judiciary. So he'll be looking forward to take serious petitions that citizens present. Okay, investigate this judge, complain against this staff, etc. So it means that he will be paying more attention to the petitions and complaints, following the general discourse and all this. And I'm sure Justice Bafuboni is well prepared for it, because generally he's down to earth, very down to earth, very approachable. And then, so, when a leader is approachable, down to earth, he gets to hear what goes on. Because the last time, for example, at the public forum, when he had not become Chief Justice, he had not been nominated, all these things, we could mention to him that one of our greatest problems as lawyers is that the bailies, that's the process servers, are not sufficient. Very few people serving thousands of lawyers. So it makes the work very difficult. They are overwhelmed. You see. Right. So we mentioned that is one of the first things we would want to see him tackle when he comes in. That let's open it up. We have thousands of graduates seated at home, unemployed. So we want to open up the process serving system so that we can employ a lot of these people so that they can help in their work. Because currently, Martin, if you sue, let's say, Success, Chris, for let's say $1 million, now the person to take the document to her, there are very few people, so there's a long queue. The person who has to take it, a lawyer doesn't have power to take the court paper, we call it summons, to the person Martin, you sue. So let's say if Alfredo Council is your lawyer, Martin, you have sued Chris, Success, and then you go and file the summons in court. After that, the person to take it to go and give Success, before Success to go and give her lawyer, those people are very few. So it's creating a lot of bottlenecks. It doesn't, augur well at all for us. You can dress up, go to court. When they call your case, then they say, oh, the bailiff has not brought evidence of delivering the document to Success. We call that evidence proof of service. So it means you have to go back, go and prepare and come another day. So there are myriad of challenges, but as I said, we have indicated, a few of us have indicated to Justice Bafuboni that when he comes, we need to open up this process serving. And if you ask citizens who access court services, they will tell you that there are issues with bailiffs. That's why they are called, those officers. They are not many. If he's able to, reform that sector so that we have many officers to be able to serve these processes, look, for me, that would be sufficient. And of course, we know that issues of restoring confidence, trust in the judiciary, those are constant. But if you ask me, that apart from that, what else should he do? It's about the reform that I've just mentioned.
Counsel, thank you so much for your time this evening. And you had the thoughts of Martin Pebu, who is a private legal practitioner, on the nomination of Justice Bafuboni as Ghana's Chief Justice. President John Mahama has nominated him and submitted his name to the Council of State. They will be deliberating on it, and later, if the Council of State approves of it, then they would submit it to Parliament for final. Probably they would have to bring him for vetting and then eventually approve him as the substantive Chief Justice of the Republic. For the last few months, he has been in acting position, so at least it gives him a fair idea of what to expect when he becomes the substantive Chief Justice. But Henry Hesimam is a Christian Hesimam is a private legal practitioner as well. He's also joined us for a quick chat on this. Good evening, sir, and thank you for your time. Having practiced all these years, and I'm sure the name Bafuboni isn't a new name to you. What, in your estimation, are the strengths he has in the current judicial system of the country that can help him succeed?
Yeah, good evening for having me. My name is Maum Hesse. Yeah, Maum Hesse. Anyway,
thanks for the correction.
Yes. Congratulations to him, and we wish him all the best. Definitely, the bar will definitely cooperate with him. The bar will definitely be in sync to ensure that he has a welcome stay at the highest office of the judiciary. Mr. Bafuboni has earned his nomination through hard work. Definitely, there might be some spectrum of definitely general public and also even the legal fraternity who would share different opinion. But largely, the legal works or the judicial pronouncements of Mr. Bafuboni speaks for themselves in the pieces of judgment that he's delivered, and he's very senior at the bench, and his nomination is earned as well.
And what would you say are the first key things he needs to pay attention to if he is finally given the nod?
I heard my learned senior speak, and definitely I agree with him on the issues of the bailiffs. It's one ton of a bottleneck in the spokes of legal delivery, and it is costing us as lawyers, and definitely we are remunerated or reimbursed when we pre-finance cases from clients. So it is costing us a lot, because in that area you have certain processes that are served by traditional bailiffs, and when it's supposed to be timeous, it doesn't happen. It must be by them and not the non-traditional bailiffs. Now, again, if you go to Tema, you have an incident where even where a timeous application is filed, like a writ and an injunction is filed, you would have to wait for a return date. While if it is a land litigation where the injunction must be served on the supposed trespassers, you would have to engage other means legal, going through the police and all of that, and police will tell you that they do not have any order, and it will be a lot of back and forth until a return date will be issued from Accra, conveyed to them at Tema before it will be communicated to you. Sometimes if you are not at the mercy of that duration of time, that which you are seeking to injunct would be beyond you and would render the injunction application moot. As I speak to you, that's what happened to me just this legal vacation. So it is one thing I'd want the Chief Justice to address his attention to with respect to filing of processes, bottleneck free. But when you file and you cannot get a date, is a problem. When you file and you have a bailiff too, not that you are paying bailiffs. I'd witnessed where at the land court, the judge had to remand the bailiff in custody for some few days because the bailiffs had become very indolent and they take bribes. Even though they take bribes, sometimes they are compelled to even give them something, even though it is undesirous. But the client is on your neck, you want the case to go faster. And even when they are given, they are paid the statutory fees to do whatever they are supposed to. Whatever you give in addition to, yet they still would not work. So that is a serious matter. I'd pray that they look at. In addition to that, the infrastructure. I pray the judiciary, through his leadership, would work with the district and municipal assemblies to put out more courts, because the infrastructure development is not the best. If you travel along the countryside, you wonder whether this is a courtroom or not, and even some places in the Greater Accra region. So I'll pray that
they should tackle infrastructure issues.
Attorney General coming in.
Okay. Thank you. And the last but one point you made over there about, some of these bailiffs more or less demanding bribes before they do what they have already been paid for. That's quite an interesting observation you make and position you've raised. We'll probably in subsequent days.
It is endemic and it is known. Your reporters can make a news item out of it. You just do a random news item and you know that what the lawyers are saying it is. I mean, we don't have a problem if they will take and do the work, but they will take and they not do the work. Sometimes you have to bring it to the attention of the judge. And I witnessed, like I said, where a judge at the Land Court had to remand a bailiff behind bars, then just to teach him a lesson. And it is very, 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 very displeasing.
Appalling. Right. Thank you for your time and thoughts on Justice Bafuboni's nomination. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Christian Mamhersi has been sharing his thoughts on it, just like Martin Asiedu, you heard him earlier. And you are also listening to us, and we'll be happy to hear from you as well. What do you make of his nomination as the substantive Chief Justice? Although there are a few more processes he needs to go through, we'll be happy to hear your thoughts. Go to our Facebook page where we are streaming this bulletin, and then also on YouTube. We are live as well, and let your comments do come in. Let's go on to some other stories this evening.
Let's stay on some legal matters. And an Accra High Court has been informed that 11 West African nationals who sued the Ghana government over alleged unlawful detention have already been deported to their home countries. The group, made up of 4 Nigerians, 3 Togolese, 2 Malians, 1 Gambian, and 1 Liberian, had sought enforcement of their human rights. They also filed for an injunction to halt their repatriation and an order compelling the states to produce them in court. However, lead counsel Oliver Bakavomawo told the court that his clients were deported over the weekend. He subsequently withdrew the case, describing it as moot.
Absolutely, we saw this coming. And this is one of our frustrations about our justice system and our legal system in more general. Unfortunately, I think that this is a matter of huge international interest, and that we haven't put the best display for the world in this. I think that the whole question of the deportees, the manner in which this matter is being treated, is undermining people's perception of whether or not this is a country on which rule of law acts and whether or not this is a democracy. And we are for one, disappointed by how this works. So let me remind you that we were instructed on Wednesday last week when we got this, and we filed processes on that Wednesday. The court registry then fixed the matter for Thursday because of the urgency of the matter. When we appeared before the court, we impressed on the court that there's a real risk that the persons were going to be deported and that the court needed to intervene. The court was asking that a habeas corpus application, which is that the government was holding the people unconstitutionally, should be brought on notice, meaning that it would take at least 2 weeks or so before we're able to appear before a court. And we were saying that, it's infeasible, that's a matter of urgency, that our justice system cannot have a mechanism by which these things can be heard urgently. The court decided to adjourn the matter to today, which is Tuesday because of the holiday there. Again, we asked for confirmation and information for the judge to make a temporary order that will prevent Ghana from deporting the individuals concerned within the 3 days. The court refused again. And so today when we appeared before court, it's clear that everything that we could have done on our part as lawyers, we have done, and that if Ghana has removed them, I think this is not what the court desired, then well, this is what has procured. But whatever the case may be, I think that we have to be mindful as a republic as to what we are holding on as these are the principles by which we want to live by. Clearly, the Constitution doesn't seem to be one of them, and for us, we are disappointed in the turn of events.
That was lead counsel Oliver Bakavomawo for the 11 West African nationals who sued the Ghana government over alleged unlawful detention. Let's now base camp with the NPP because the race to lead the opposition New Patriotic Party is heating up as the party's vetting committee begins assessing aspirants seeking to become the party's flag bearer. 5 prominent figures, Kennedy Ejapong, Kwabena Ejapong, Dr. Mahamudu Baumia, Dr. Osei Yao Educhum, and and Brian Echampong are contesting in the upcoming presidential primaries ahead of the 2028 elections. The vetting process began this morning with former General Secretary Kwabena Asiedu-Dartey being the first to face the committee. He was followed by former Sin Central MP Kennedy Ohene Ejapong and then Abetifi MP Brian Echampong. Former Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia also took his turn before the committee later in the day. Addressing journalists shortly after his session, Kennedy Ejapong sounded confident about not only sailing through the process but also winning the January 31, 2026 primaries.
I was prepared, so I believe I answered all the questions, and they know I'm ready to be president of this country. Yeah.
What were your major takeaways from today's session?
Oh, they really wanted to know why I want to be president and my vision for the country as well as the party.
Okay.
So I enumerated a couple of points and how I'm going to address some problems. So basically that was the interview. They know I've been through and through party man for so long. So I didn't face any serious questions, or they didn't antagonize me because they know my potential already. But they asked tangible and reasonable, I would say reasonable questions. They were not hostile to me, and I was free to answer their questions.
I imagine you plan to use the Asian model to develop Ghana.
I started there too. I told them and explained what I mean by Asian model. You know, I have seen some food. Let me explain further. The Asian model, what they did at that time when they decided to compete with Europe and America was that they identified potential talents and potential businessmen and funded their projects like Daewoo, Hyundai, Samsung in Korea, for instance. They made sure, made conscious efforts to support them by giving them loans. And the loan he did was that if Mr. Honorable Kwekukwati, the equipment you're going to use will arrive in 3 months. In 3 months, the following week, 3 months once, we are there to inspect if indeed you receive the equipment. Now, what they do is that the government partners the individual, the private sector. So they win themselves off when you finish paying the loan. Then it becomes your business. And you know, in business, the most difficult part is the capital. So if government supports you to get the capital and you run it well, you become a millionaire. This is how they've been able to expand their businesses. India, Dubai, all the Asian, that is how the model they use. And I think because Ghana, we don't have capital for our businesses. You know, set up businesses, initially they are very tough.
That was former Sin Central MP and NPP flag bearer aspirant Kennedy Ejapong. Now, the Abetifi MP Brian Echampong has given the media insight into what transpired when he faced the committee earlier today.
Standard questions. It's a vetting. It's not an interview. It's a vetting to see whether I qualify. And as a member of parliament, it's very easy to qualify for such a vetting unless you have any other thing against you. And I don't have anything. So we just had a normal conversation about how we're going to move our party forward.
There was an issue about development fee, 4 million Ghana cedis, which some of the aspirants raised concerns about, saying that is the party now being sold to the highest bidder? Why is the party charging development fee? You are one of the candidates to lead the party. What do you have to say about the development fee?
Well, as far as I am concerned, it was a requirement that came with the forms that we have to pay a development fee. If you are a presidential candidate, you have to be able to demonstrate resourcefulness, to be able to mobilize what is required to fulfill the party's requirement, and it has been done. As to whether it is the right amount, fair amount, exorbitant or low, that is up to the party people and the party leadership to decide. I am not for, against. I'm very neutral about it. I think that my team have fulfilled that requirement, and we are ready to embark on our campaign.
I'm sure you asked about your vision for the country. What did you tell the
But I don't think that it came in that form. The vetting largely is based on your qualification to be a presidential candidate and to satisfy the constitutional requirement. That is what the vetting is about. There were some side questions more about how we bring the party together, or the vision on how, when you become a candidate, unite us to win. Those questions were answered square and fair. I took an oath in there not to discuss the details of the vetting committee. If you are to ask me on another forum of my vision for the party and the country, I will be able to tell you.
That was Abetifi MP Brian Echampong speaking after facing the committee earlier today. Still on the NPP, they are intensifying calls urging the government to stop using the police service to intimidate members of the opposition party. During a demonstration, the party recounted a number of undignified arrests targeting opposition members. Stanley Nibleo joined the party supporters on the protest.
Right, we'll bring that insight to our listeners in a jiffy, but let's go on to some other stories having to do with major developments in the country. And the Minister for Labour, Jobs and Employment is calling on members of the Teachers and Education Workers Union, Treve TUC, to end their strike action and return to the negotiation table. Dr. Rashid Pelpo says government is close to meeting their demands and warns that the ongoing strike could delay progress. Treve members declared a nationwide strike on Friday, September 19, demanding that government and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission immediately conclude and sign their long-delayed conditions of service. The group says its indefinite strike will continue despite a directive from the National Labour Commission to call off the action to allow negotiations to resume. The sector minister, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, has been speaking exclusively to our Labour correspondent Daniel Opoku in Accra.
They need something concrete, and we are going to do something concrete for them. They want a situation where the difference between the teaching staff and then the workers be narrowed, and they want to make sure the allowances that are supposed to be paid to narrow that gap are also supported. And we are looking at it. But you see, economic decisions are not taken overnight. They are taken within a space of time, because every single decision has a consequence on the total output in the budget. And so before a budget is read, a lot of things are taken into consideration. If they were not taken into consideration and the budget was read, you will have to wait for a period. But in their case, after I had a meeting with the minister, it's virtually discussed and virtually coming to a conclusion about what they want. So I didn't expect them to go on strike now. I expected them to resort back to us, for us to take very concrete steps they can show to their leadership, their members, that this is the point we have gotten up to. They will be resolved. It shouldn't be because of strike. I want us to work out in a situation for them to appreciate that we too are concerned about the welfare of the workers. We are a social democratic party. We care about the worker. We will make sure that the worker is safe, sound, and committed to his work, because that defines the nation's progress.
And that's the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, in that interview with my colleague Daniel Opoku. Now, a labor expert, Austin Game, said that the ongoing strike is evidence of poor labor relations between government and the worker union, and he's been speaking to TV3.
I think it's about poor management of the relationship between labor, poor management between labor and the employer or the employers are the main cause of the problem. Industrial relations is not intended to be vicious. It's intended to help the parties build trust and have an open relationship in resolving their matters. Conditions of service is not supposed to be taken, it's to be earned. So the employer will have to go by the principles in the labor law by way of engaging their workers. The workers cannot be demanding what is not available, and so therefore how to resolve that matter is to share information about the allocation that you have and how you intend to disburse it. Government yesterday and today and tomorrow to come cannot afford to go beyond what the national income is. And the national income has an allocation. And therefore it is for the Ministry of Employment to lead that national tripartite committee to have a very clear-cut discussion on how the relationship between labor and management relative to negotiation, relative to disbursement of income should be understood.
Austin Game is a labor expert. Let's go to the phone line now and speak to King James Azotiba, who is the General Secretary of Treve. Mr. Azotiba, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good evening, and my best greetings to you and all your listeners.
What would you say that in the last few days of being on strike, what impact would you say it is having, and what do you make of the response from government?
Well, I would prefer to talk about the impact from government, the response from government, as you have heard from the Honorable Employment Minister. For the effect of the strike, well, it is not like labor is intended to inflict any pain or any disturbance in our duties to affect any particular person. No. We know it is not the best way in education. We know the chain of education, and we know our role. So for that, though it's as painful as it might be affecting the students that are on campus and those who are yet to come, we are not thinking about that. I want to respond to the Honorable
the Labour Minister.
Yes, and employment, and I think he's made some contacts with us, and we have had certain discussions. And then we said that, look, we appreciate him, and we know all that he's trying to do to resolve this matter. But this is not a fair time. In fact, for economic conditions, like we want everybody to understand the condition of service and whatever we are asking for is not a new thing. It's something that has been factored in the budget already. It is something that is being paid. And so it's just a difference of what we being paid and what we are expecting. That's just all. And so it's not it, and that's even, I can assure you that our employers have factored that one in their 2025 budget. And so it's not anything, because this condition of service started from 2020, 2018, and they keep on factoring in, especially 2024. And they were factored in 2025. So it's just unfortunate because of the change of government, and so they are thinking, look at which for purpose of budgeting and other things, when they are doing costing, they look at the whole figure. But that whole figure, part of it is being paid. So government is not committed to pay everything. And in any case, we are very, very convinced that it is part of the budget of this year, this 2024-5. And so if we don't even do it, then it means that next year, then we even take it out of our budget again. And then it means, where are we? And so, like the employment minister said, we are closely monitoring and we are praying and waiting for any positive response from their end. And we are ready to go.
But you're waiting for a positive response, and he says that they will do something fantastic for you and your colleagues. And on the back of that, he's urging that you call off the strike and at least get back to work and let negotiations continue as they prepare the powerful package for you. What do you make of that call?
It was very easy to do. I would have done it long ago because I talked with him last Friday. And people cut off my head. The warnings that we are getting, because this is not a today's issue. And you are going back to tell them what? After spending all their money to organize these things, it's how much involves to do these things. And then if they are now warming up even for the strike. And then you come, you are not holding anything, you are not having. So we want them to speed up. We pray that they speed up and come out with something concrete for us to go back. We are not asking for anything much. We don't. They are not.
Okay. So, you'd rather want to have something in your hand before you can say, okay, based on this, let's go back to the negotiation table or let's go back to work.
Definitely. What am I going to tell my members? Last year, 2024, that is exactly the same thing. They will call off and we went, and after that one, they snubbed us. And then all attempts to knock on all the doors, their doors are shut. Nobody talking to you. And so, what do you go back to tell the members? And we have to organize them from local level, regional level, and to the national. It's a structural work.
Thank you, Mr. Asiedu-Dartey, for your time, and we will definitely keep an eye on this and see how it plays out in the coming days. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, speaking to King James Asiedu-Dartey, who is the General Secretary of Treve, and saying that in as much as they respect what the Minister for Labour and Employment has said, they are optimistic that they need to get something in hand before they can call off the strike. And although it's a promise, they've had similar promises in time past which didn't materialize as they expected. So this time, until something concrete hits their account or they get to see something more steadfast from the government, they will stay on strike while negotiations continue. This is still 3FM 92.7. Time now for the latest in the world of business.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, over 11.5 million Ghanaians priced out of home ownership as Works and Housing Minister Kenneth Ajay calls for urgent, innovative solutions to address the growing deficit. I am Bismarck. I'll start this headline story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. More than 11.5 million Ghanaians are unable to afford a home due to low incomes, highlighting the scale of the country's housing crisis. Works and Housing Minister Kenneth Ajay, speaking at the TV3 Thought Leadership Forum on the theme Blueprint to Break, Making Affordable Housing Work, said that while a majority of citizens face affordability challenges, about 60% of the population, roughly 19.8 million people, could secure housing with targeted government support. He stressed that Ghana's housing deficit demands innovative and sustainable solutions and called for urgent collective action from policymakers, industry players, and the private sector to make affordable housing a reality.
Millions millions of Ghanaians are waiting for the first brick to be laid on a house they can truly afford. Research shows that only 5% of Ghana's population can afford to buy a house without assistance. 60% need support to access decent housing, while the remaining 35% require additional direct support, such as affordable mortgages and subsidies. In line with the National Housing Policy, we define affordable housing as accommodations that are reasonably adequate in standard and location for lower to middle income households. Such housing must not impose a financial burden so great that it jeopardizes their ability to meet other essential needs such as food, clothing, healthcare, and education on sustainable basis. The affordable housing program is based on principle that for housing to be truly affordable, the cost should not exceed 30% of household income.
And that was Works and Housing Minister Kenneth Ejay. Now, the Bank of Ghana is developing a framework on sustainable banking, specifically for microfinance institutions, to help embed environmental, social, and governance considerations into their operations, lending and risk management. Head other financial institutions supervision department of the Bank of Ghana, Desmond Agboga, who disclosed this in Takrady, urged financial institutions to look beyond short-term profits and embrace a broader sustainability-focused purpose.
Speaking at the just-ended 16th Annual General Meeting of the Microcredit Association Ghana, head of other financial institutions supervision department, Bank of Ghana, Desmond Agboga, said the aim is to build resilient institutions that support communities, protect vulnerable populations, and enhance national security. According to him, the microfinance sector in Ghana faces persistent challenges, including weak credit administration, poor loan recovery strategies.
Financial institutions must look beyond short-term profitability and embrace a broader purpose. That is one that focuses on environmental sustainability, social impact, and sound governance.
Executive Director of MCAG, Ebenezer Korte, emphasized the importance of digital finance, especially digital lending, saying it is poised to revolutionize Ghana's financial sector, mirroring successes seen in Kenya.
The future of microcredit members is digital. Digital finance, particularly digital lending, is set to transform Ghana's financial landscape, much as it has in Kenya. Digital lending is here to stay, and we must embrace it.
Guest speaker Professor Gloria K.Q. Ejapon called for boards and management teams of microcredit institutions to adopt clear ESG frameworks with measurable targets addressing environmental impact, social inclusion.
We need orientation. Sometimes they come for the money for the wrong reasons, really. We might have done, or we say would have done our due diligence, but at the end of the day, they still go and do not put it, in the business. So let's give them reorientation so that they think the money is there and they can just come for it,
And that report bringing us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Osa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Real Kuampofo is here for sports. Please stay.
Well, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition of TFM 92.7 with me, Ray Kwampafo. Let's start off from the Black Stars, who will continue their push for a place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup when they lock horns with Central African Republic in their penultimate Group I qualifier on Wednesday, October 8th. The crucial encounter is now scheduled for the El Abdi Stadium in Morocco. Remember that Ghana are chasing their 5th World Cup appearance and know that maximum points against the Wild Beasts will be pivotal in keeping their campaign on course, with the Black Stars currently top of Group I with 19 points. Now away from the Black Stars to the Ballon d'Or, because Dembele was named as the best men's player of 2085. My colleague Billy Shen has been reflecting on the award and what it means for African football. 2 African players, Mohamed Salah and Achraf Hakimi, finished in the top 10, a feat that has not happened since 2022. Now, Bill looks back at the history of African representation in the award in the hopes of seeing another African crowned Ballon d'Or winner in the near future.
Sections of people in the world were happy that Ousmane Dembele won the Ballon d'Or. But if you're an African, you would probably be pleased to see 2 Africans actually make the top 10. Last year, there was no African in the top 10. Ademola Lookman, who won the African Best, actually finished 14th. And the last time we saw 2 Africans actually enter the top 10 in the Ballon d'Or was in 2022. We saw Sadio Mane finish 2nd that year, behind Benzema, and Mohamed Salah, of course, making the top 10. This time, we are seeing Hakimi and Mohamed Salah again making the top 10 of the Ballon d'Or. That goes to show that there's still a lot of quality with regards to African players in the world. And of course, the hope will be that an African wins it for the first time since George Weah did it back in 1995. Even though it's going to be tough, but it is something that would give a lot of hopes to Africans. Of course, if Mohamed Salah keeps up his form this season and Achraf Hakimi wins things with PSG and becomes, the talisman of the team, maybe one of them could possibly become Ballon d'Or in 2026. But it will be a very tight race between the two, especially for the African Footballer of the Year, which is expected to take place later in 2025.
So that was my colleague Billy Shen. Finally, before we go, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has provided an update on forward Erling Haaland after he was forced off in the City clash against Arsenal over the weekend. The match ended 1-0. The Norwegian striker scored a 6th league goal of the season at the Emirates on Sunday to give the Manchester City side the lead against the Gunners before he was replaced after the hour mark. Speaking ahead of City's Carabao Cup clash with Huddersfield on Wednesday, Guardiola says he's hopeful Haaland would be ready in time for the weekend's fixture against Burnley.
Recovery yesterday, didn't train, big recovery. Today I didn't see him and the rest of the players yet, but hopefully it can be for the next weekend. Well, I've been a so demanding week, and the last game especially, and sometimes the players, have problems, so. But I think we'll be fine next weekend. I hope so.
So that was Pep Guardiola speaking ahead of their Carabao Cup clash against Huddersfield. That will happen on Wednesday. However, there are matches taking place on Tuesday. Barnsley host Brighton. Burnley take on Cardiff. Cambridge United travel to London to face Fulham. Chelsea will be in action away to Lincoln. And then Wigan welcome Wigan will be at home to Wycombe. And then Wolves play Everton. Wrexham host Reading, and Liverpool face former Premier League side Southampton in the Carabao Cup. You can get updates of these games and more on our social media handles at 3SportsGH. That's how we wrap up for the sports segment here on Hot Edition, and we also wrap up for Hot Edition today here on TFM 92.7. We return tomorrow with the latest news across Ghana, the continent, and the globe.